Paul actually makes a speech in which he comes against and condemns tithing or giving 10% of your money to churches. Yeah, I can tell you something. It'd be very easy for me because we have a struggle here. People that come here just either can't afford it or whatever. I understand that. So that's the way it is. We just have to trust that it'll make its way out. You know, it's like Elliot said, it's tough to make ends meet here and to make this thing go. I could very easily come up here and say, you're not tithing. You're not giving 10% of your money, and you're not going to get a blessing. But if you would give 10% of your money, you'd get a blessing, and I would be a crook and an extortionist and a liar like the rest of them are. Okay? Because that's not what this means. And tithing actually means giving 10%, that left side of your consciousness, the left side of your brain, giving that in meditation, shutting that off so the right side activates, and you're able to then understand and know the things of God. So let's take a look at it. When you're willing on your lower physical aspect to tithe your thoughts, then you go into Christ consciousness, then you become one of Abraham. Now, look at page 204 in those little Bibles in the book of Hebrews. That's Hebrews chapter 7. And then we'll watch how this goes, and you'll see in the Bible where a writer, one of the most prolific writers in the Bible, comes contrary to everything that is said in Christianity, especially these guys on television. The guys on television that have got your hands in your pockets and telling you, send them this money, send them $1,000, you're going to get healed. They are extortionists. I mean, there's nothing religious about them. There's nothing holy about them. There's nothing spiritual about them. They're crooks, okay? I mean, the only difference between them and another guy who comes with a gun is the guy with the gun's got the guts to tell you what he is. Here is where Paul said, and he questioned the fact that you're paying 10% of your money to people who died. They put their pants on just like you. They blow their nose. They read Playboy. They do all of this stuff that you do, and you're giving them 10% of your money. And Paul is saying, look, wait a minute here. Hebrews 7:8. Here, men that die receive tithes. But, he says, then he received them of whom it is witness he lives. In other words, no, that's not the way it was intended. You were never supposed to give 10% of your money to churches and people. You were supposed to give that 10%, which is everything you have, that left side, to he who lives forever, the Christ. See? So here Paul is questioning this. Why are you doing this? And you know, these churches and these religious institutions and these television stations would crumble in a minute if they didn't hold this guillotine over the necks of people and say, if you don't give us your money, you're out of step with the law and God's not going to bless you. They scare the hell out of people, and they survive with all of this crystal chandeliers because of extortion. Now let's take a look at the law of tithing. Now, Paul's going to get right to the roots of it. And this is what they're still collecting. Watch what it says. Verse 12 of Hebrews 7. For the priesthood being changed, there is made a necessity, a change also of the law. It doesn't count anymore. It shouldn't be done anymore. Stop it. It's wrong. It's been taken literally, and you have never achieved perfection by giving 10% of your money to these people. And the worst part of it is you think that by doing it you are. And that's bad. You're not. And so Paul then says, wait a minute. If the priesthood is changed, then that law, the law of tithing, has to be changed. And it has to be changed, and it has to be changed in the hearts of people all over this world of giving 10% of their money to giving 10% of themselves. Because you cannot give money to that which is divine. You can only give yourself to that which is divine. And so that's what the change is. So now comes the truth that we have never been told. Now comes the truth that tithing never was intended for ministers or churches. Everybody's got this. If anybody wants to write this down, you're pretty well straight on this, because I got to show you something. Okay? The other tribe which is to receive the tithes is not the Levites, not the religious, it's not the ministers and the evangelists and the priests, it is Judah, it is the right side. So what is tithing, and who is to receive the tithes? Now look at this one. Verse 15 of Hebrews 7. And it is yet far more evident. You know what Paul is saying? Folks, it's obvious. Okay? It is far more evident For that after the similitude, in other words, the same thing as Melchizedek, there arises another priest. Okay? And this priest, verse 16, who is made not after the law of what? Tithing, a carnal commandment, but after the power of an endless life. Wow! All of your life, all of Christianity survives with the hands in people's pockets on the basis of a carnal commandment, on a commandment, a law made by men against other men. And the Apostle Paul turns and says, it is obvious that after the similitude, in other words, the same thing as Melchizedek, there arises another priest who was made not after the law of a carnal commandment, but after the power of an endless life. That's where your tithes have to go. That's who you have to tithe to. You have sat in this room this morning and you have heard the Apostle Paul ranting and raving and screaming about this thing that is done by men in robes and stained glass to take money out of the pockets of people, of which it was never ordained from the beginning of time. That the book, the Holy Book says, no, this is not the priesthood that gets your tithes. It is not he who walks up and down the aisles of a church. It is he who walks up and down the aisles of your mind. Eh? Give him the 10%. Give him the left side. Spring and give to that which dwells at the right side, the tribe of Judah in the east.